ADHD, inattentive, hyperactive, mixed, runs in the family. I was diagnosed at 18, my brother at 8. He drummed on tables, I stared out of the window. He was medicated, I was not. Never understood why I couldn't just focus like the others. Told I was smart, so why couldn't I just do it? Because it isn't one size fits all. Easier to go unnoticed if you're quiet. What might have happened if I was diagnosed? I might have been able to focus better. I might have got higher grades. I might have understood why I was different. I might have had more support. But even without help, I managed. I bounced between ideas, thought outside the box, made art I love. I like my brain. Even if I wish I'd had support earlier, it's different, and I don't mind being different.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth and I am a volunteer for ADHD Aware. ADHD Aware is an organisation based in Brighton and Hove that supports adults with ADHD. And we are a peer support group and we run 4 different group sessions a month. One of our sessions is for parents of children and young people with ADHD. And we realised that over our many meetings, one of our great sadnesses is the limited understanding of our children. And we wanted to make this video to help people understand more of the complexities and the nuances and the positives and the real assets that some of our children have with ADHD. They are bright, they are creative, they are lateral thinkers, and yet they are given not only a bad press, but they are given a bad time, and we wanted to do something about that. I've got ADHD, and one of my adult children has got ADHD. So I've got a vested interest in raising awareness, and I hope you enjoy this video.
Okay, I have a daughter who is 18, who was diagnosed when she was 15, and I have a son who is 14, who was diagnosed when he was 7. So he was diagnosed first.
Okay.
And I had no idea that she had it at all.
Yeah, my son basically, he's nearly 14, he's at secondary school, he's a he.
Yeah.
And he is we're actually waiting for a stage 2, but all the indications are that it's very much that he has ADHD. We're in that no man's land currently at the moment, which I'm sure a lot of people will relate to. It's been quite new for all of us.
He, I would say, exhibited signs very, very young, even before he left nursery. When it was carpet time and everybody was sat down listening to stories, he would always make sure he was sat on the periphery because then he could slowly escape. We went to get a diagnosis through CAMS, and the report that the teacher wrote, it did make me laugh, because he said sometimes he had to stop my son from doing PE because he was dangerous. He used to run around in lots and lots of circles, which is quite interesting because that is something that he does to concentrate. He needs to pace. He can't sit and learn it. He has to pace and do it.
It sounds like that your gender split is quite reflective of the commonly perceived gender split in ADHD. So you've got the more impulsive, hyperactive male and more inattentive
Mhm. Yes.
distractible female.
Yes.
Obviously,
Yeah.
that's a generalisation, but that is often how.
But they do kind of fall into that, and my
Yeah.
son does fall into the. I'd like to entertain everybody.
Yeah.
I'd like to distract everybody because I don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
So if I can be funny and keep everybody entertained, then maybe I can put everybody off doing the work, and then nobody will have to do it. He is very work shy. My daughter is more just Dolly Daydream, you know, but was having problems maybe with friendships and lots of problems with self-esteem, massive problems with self-esteem. But then school did a report which basically said there was nothing the matter because she's not disruptive. She was like that kind of lost middle.
Yeah.
Not disruptive, doesn't stick out,
bit invisible.
doesn't really need any special help.
Yeah.
But isn't the top of the class either.
Interestingly, she herself wasn't happy with that because she'd asked to have someone to talk to.
Yeah, she came to me. So we ended up having to then get a private diagnosis for her. And so she went on medication immediately because she was just about to go into a final GCSE year.
I think the people that see certainly in our situation, they see my son's personality and they see the child that he actually is. He's no different to another 13-year-old. His brain just wired differently.
Yeah.
But then you get the well-meaning parents that, you know, your son has just had, you know, his sort of like 200th behavior point and, you know, or another internal exclusion or whatever, you know, and you get but you know, they all struggle to focus sometimes, don't they?
Yes.
Or, boys will be boys, or, well, my son does that too. And it completely diminishes your child's experience. It makes you feel like a crappy parent because somehow you must be doing something wrong.
Yeah. People are like, oh, right, yeah. Oh, I thought that was down to bad parenting and and things like that. Or have you tried a different diet? Do you let them stay up really late and things like that? Just
like, primary school was a safe space.
Yeah.
In terms of you had minimal, there were fewer adults to navigate. So obviously we didn't pick up things with him until more secondary school when obviously it went bang.
With reception, he quite often would sit in story time again with his back to everybody else. And a teacher did mention something about ADHD and I was a bit like, oh, okay, fine, okay. And then later on I thought, oh, maybe that nursery report said something. And then by the time he got to year 3, he then started to be quite clearly falling behind because he couldn't concentrate and that kind of thing.
If he gravitates to you, he's all in, but it is not many people he really gravitates to. If he's getting negative feedback from someone a lot, then, you know, and you're trying to have a conversation with him, then immediately, you know, the barriers go up.
It's just quite hard to pay attention. It's annoying because you get really tired and then it absorbs all your energy up, so you have no more energy left. It's like when I'm making music or dancing, it doesn't take much out of my energy, but all my brain energy when I'm working, it all just goes. And yeah, that's the annoying thing. It takes all the energy out of you for the rest of the day and you don't feel good once you come out of a lesson. They have different attitudes to helping you. Some go in a positive attitude and they know how to help you properly because they're more experienced and they teach you more. It's better if they're used to you as well, because if they're new, then they're not really as nice. You know, like it might get better if you have a new one, then you gradually get like more help.
When I look back and I reflect, actually transitions into, you know, changing years and things like that were really difficult. Changing teachers is huge because it's another relationship to suddenly negotiate. It's another personality to understand and to deal with.
And he got into year 8, and while fortunately for him he was away on the school ski trip, we discovered that he'd spent £500 on our credit cards. At this stage he is 12 and he was diagnosed at about the age of just over 8.
What I find is things like, you know, if he's hungry and I'm doing dinner, he'll literally, how many minutes is that going to be? How long is that going to be? Because to him, that 2 minutes probably feels like 10.
Yeah.
You know, and quite often he'll need me to literally be quite specific about times, and then he will hold me to that. So that's quite difficult. And again, then you have those big emotions and they get irritated and frustrated, and suddenly something very small becomes really big.
No, they were like, they had no idea. I don't think they've ever seen it before. They never saw it. They were like, what the, you know, they didn't understand how to help me, and it felt like they couldn't really be bothered. They were just focused on the best people in the class, and they didn't care if I didn't get education because they thought I was pointless at that point, and they only helped like they thought there were smart kids. The smart kids, they only helped them.
I say to those teachers, you know what, I've got a child who has so many negative messages on a constant daily basis, who's being removed from classes, who's struggling, who gets up every single day and goes back in for more. And that to me is resilience.
So the teacher previously tried to put in a kind of like, you know, if you do this and that at the end of the week, we'll add up the points and you can have like some extra house points or something like that. But my son wasn't interested in house points, couldn't care less. And also
abstract.
And he couldn't sustain interest in something for an entire week to build up to something he wasn't that bothered about. The reward needs to be instantaneous for somebody with ADHD. You can't really work for long-term rewards and gains.
The general environment is, if you don't sit still, be quiet and do all the things that you're meant to do and follow instructions, that you're difficult or you're a problem. And I think advocating and speaking to teachers, I'm constantly saying to them, these kids need praise for sitting still for 10 minutes. You know, if they're not, you can't measure them in the same way as the other kids. You know, if you've got kids and you're basically giving them achievement points because they're sitting still and engaging and producing great work, fantastic. But, you know, our kids are actually struggling just to concentrate and sit there and, you know, contain themselves. And actually, if you want them to do that, you need to praise them and you need to tell them when they're doing well. And quite often it's lost in the noise of the negative behavior. The minute they do something wrong, they're removed and they're out. And the other half an hour they were trying is ignored. I think increased understanding and appreciating for who they are and understanding their qualities and their strengths. You know, I mean, again, frequently, you know, we do have professionals at school who are like, he's great. And I'm like, I know he's great. He's just struggling. You know, he's not a bad kid. He just can't handle himself in the same way that others can.
And he's a true ADHD, you know, when he tries, he has absolute moments, hours of brilliance. It did up his self-esteem, and I think I didn't realise how much his self-esteem had taken a bashing, because he's quite relaxed, quite a happy-go-lucky, chap.
His emotions and his inability to regulate his feelings is something that he's always actually struggled with. I remember a specific teacher at school going, you know, when he talked about focus and engagement, and said, oh, but I've seen him in a detention and he managed to be really quiet and sit still in that. You know, you have people that assume that because they can, you know, or they can focus on gaming, or you know, they can get on a football pitch and listen to instructions, that, you know, somehow when they're not doing it, they're doing it deliberately. Well, they find it really difficult to think ahead and to think behind. You know, they're very much in the moment.
Well, there's lots of little things, like sitting at the front of the class helps. It's a little thing.
They won't always interpret things and instructions in the way that we think that they should. They will interpret things in their way, and it's finding that middle ground, and that takes a lot of learning and understanding and patience as well. A bit more understanding, a bit more empathy, lots and lots and lots of love. You know, they really need to feel valued, and, you know, and they need to feel that they can do stuff, because their self-esteem gets battered.
And then he went to secondary school, and I made them all aware that he had a diagnosis, and it might need some extra help.
Do you adapt home life for each of them?
So with my son, he needs a lot of managing and getting out of the house in the morning and remembering things, and his executive functioning skills are really poor. His memory is quite poor. So he wouldn't remember his PE kit on, 5 times out of 10, he'd forget it, that kind of thing. So we do have lots and lots of reminders and alarms and visuals and that kind of thing that he's used. Less so with my daughter, really. She's quite organised, and her memory's much better than my son's, I would say.
In terms of my son, he is funny. He's got a really dry sense of humour. He's very quick-witted. He's very sharp. He can generally sense false praise or feedback a mile off. So, if you're genuine with him, he can pick that up. He's almost quite adult in that respect. He's quite he's a clever boy.
The positive for both of them is the ability to hyper focus when they want. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my daughter 100% hyper focused on GCSEs, and and A levels, to everything else was just like, it was out the window. She absolutely, focused big time on that. So I would, my son is, like I say, can do some amazing things when he really, really puts his mind to it.
Yeah, I'm fine with attention with things that I like. It gives me an extra boost of attention. If you like it, then it's extra, and you can last longer without losing your attention because you're interested in it.
He's really funny. He's quite confident in. He wouldn't have any problem just standing up and reading something out, or read at his great grandma's funeral, or he's done lots of readings in church and acting and things like that, and wouldn't particularly get at all worried about things like that. So he has a real confidence of performing, I would say. He's very, my son's very, very creative. Well, my daughter's very creative. She's a very, very good creative writer.
Managing expectations, and that's us as adults, how we are with these children, managing our own expectations. It's so easy to get triggered and to feel that a response is very personal.
Don't just settle for anything, because if you've got ADHD and you're just not going to turn up for work and things like that, or you're going to be not good at your job because you're not going to want to do it. So I hope that they find what it is that they like. I think my daughter already has. She's off to university. I hope that she'll be able to, she doesn't need it tattooed across her forehead or even written on a CV, but I hope that she'll be able to say to her employer, look, I've got ADHD. The things that you can do to help me are, and the things I'm going to do to help myself are, and I know that that's going to get the best out of me, and that's what you want, and that's what you're paying for, and that makes me happy too. And generally more diagnosis of it as well, because the more people are diagnosed with it, the more people, it just becomes a normal thing. And it doesn't have to be something that makes you stand out. I think also people seem to forget that people with ADHD tend to they have a higher IQ, and they tend to make up the intelligent part of society. Sometimes, as long as they can focus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Try find like what level they are good at learning and what strengths they have at. Find what the best they can be at, like best thing they can do to help them, like best way they can learn, basically. What helps them most to learn, because then they might get more education and more help, and they'll like working, and they might have just a little bit more of a smile on their face.